Hello, and welcome to this broadcast of Running on Love with God. My name is Lori Michelle, and I was awakened in April of 2009 to the voice of our Creator, God Himself. And He said, go get pen and paper, start writing this down. And I listened, and here I am, many years later, sharing His voice and His wisdom. I'm here in Israel, and my friend Anna Marie is in Chicago. Hello, Anna Marie. And tonight's topic is about controlling behavior. Why is controlling behavior counterproductive? And I posted a short Q&A video about controlling behavior and answered that question. And it's counterproductive because it leads to the opposite of what you're seeking. We all want control of our lives. We want to control our surroundings, and we want more. We want more love. We want better relationships. So we become controlling, not realizing that that's what we're doing. And so the answer is it's counterproductive because we're not meant to control each other. God Himself doesn't control us. He gives us the ultimate freedom to choose. He's dominant in the universe, but He doesn't dominate. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Anna Marie, to ask me more questions about controlling behavior.
My first question is, can you give an example of controlling behavior being counterproductive?
Well, there are many relationships that we all have. We have parent-child relationships. We have spousal relationships. So let's take a spousal relationship in particular, that you're married. And in the relationship like that, sometimes there's a lot of abusive behavior that starts to happen where, for example, husbands want to know where their wives are every single minute. And they micromanage everything. So it creates acrimony in the home. It really doesn't give you more control. It actually damages your marriage and your relationship with people that you love.
Okay, and I see, if you know that somebody's going to be tracking your every movement, it would make you more likely to try to hide your every movement or cover, and that would be against what they were originally seeking to do.
Well, yeah, you might start lying, or you might become resentful. And when one party or one partner becomes controlling, it often leads to problems in the relationship, and it can lead to divorce.
One of the questions that you had in your introduction was, we all know it feels awful to be controlled by others, but many people don't realize when they are the perpetrators of this negative behavior. My question is, how can we recognize that behavior in ourselves? Because when you're the one being controlling, you think that you're just giving good guidance or that you're just trying to get things right. You don't realize that you're actually controlling.
That's true. And sometimes as people who are being controlled, we don't realize. In fact, there are a lot of people who suffer from spousal abuse and don't recognize it till many, many years into the relationship. And then they're shocked to see that many of the relationship qualities from their spouse was actually abusive behavior. And they just shrugged it off as typical husband behavior or typical behavior in a relationship. So how do you recognize when you're being controlling? You need to watch the other person's reaction and how it affects your relationship. Whenever you do something or say something or choose something, you need to think about it before, during, and after. You need to become a thinking person, a thinking computer. So when you're being controlling, your person that you're in a relationship with often will become defensive, resentful, pull away. Those are indications that maybe you're crossing the line. it's easier, I think, if we talk about specific examples. So can I give one, a hypothetical? Maybe it would be more clear. Let's say a family member is getting married. And maybe this is really probably a very common situation. And maybe the parents or the sister or brother doesn't approve of the choice that their sibling is choosing someone. Let's say it's a girl. A girl's getting married to a boy. They don't like this boy. So they think that they're stepping in and doing the right thing and defending their sister, their daughter, and they start meddling. So how do you know when you're protecting your family member and meddling? It's very dicey, truly, because you don't want to see your sister, brother, or someone that you love make a mistake. And marriage is quite serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to pull back. And as a parent or as a sibling, you have to allow other people to make choices in their life. It's their journey. It's not your journey. You might love them, but you can't choose for them. And so it's a very slippery slope when you start to get involved. You might bring up situations and have a conversation of things that are alarming and are bothering you, but to intervene and try to break up a relationship because you think that that person's not good for your sibling or your daughter or your son is wrong-headed, and it's controlling behavior.
Another one of your questions was, if Hashem God himself has the ultimate power, why does he give us all the ultimate freedom to choose?
Because ultimately we are a piece of God. We are like him. And ultimately we cannot find true joy in our lives unless we're free to choose in every moment. We're designed that way. We're inherently souls that want to choose and have control of our lives. And he gave us that option to choose evil from good, God from the opposite of God, because he doesn't want us to choose him by default. We're not robots. He wants thinking children, thinking creations. And the true joy is when you do have choice in your life.
So even though if he did exercise more control over us, he could make things turn out better, it wouldn't be as good for us because we wouldn't have made the free decision.
Well, I've had funny conversations with Hashem, God. It's well known that Hashem does not incarnate, which means we're incarnated and we're a bit of bubbleheads, meaning we don't have our conscious mind knowing everything about why we're here, who we really are, who we were in a past life. All that's erased. And we come and journey as Anna Marie and I'm Lori, but Hashem doesn't incarnate like that. Imagine God himself having his memory erased. God forbid. He'd be in very big trouble. So, but he's joked with me that he could never and would never incarnate, ever, for many reasons. But he's joked that if he ever chose to incarnate, he would be a maniacal dictator and the world would be completely orderly. And if you chose anything wrong, he would just kill you right there on the spot. But he's God, so he knows, and he's all-knowing and all-loving. And he's joked. I know, he says he's not really joking. That's how he would be. He'd be very authoritative and see someone, doing some atrocity, and that's it, you're dead. But he doesn't do that because he wants us to be free. That's what people do, by the way. People, and we see this, maniacal dictators all over the world.
We do. And not even necessarily because you did a bad thing, if you just did something that they think hurts them.
That's right. That's right. Or it's not in their best interest, or they want more money, they want more power. We see it everywhere. It's very evil. Controlling behavior at its worst is Nazi Germany.
Right.
We've decided this group of people needs to be exterminated.
Now, that's an extreme example, but can control be a good thing sometimes? For example, governments or parents or even at work, don't you need some element of control?
Having control does not mean being controlling. We, of course, need rules, and we need authority, and we need to respect authority. For example, I'm a parent, and I give my children free rein to choose in their life. They're young adults. I don't interfere. I give them my opinion, and I don't interfere. But I do have a line that they know they can't cross. They need to speak to me in a certain way. They need to show up at a certain occasion. They need to toe the line. And when they don't toe the line, I'm not controlling. I just let them know. This is not acceptable. There's the door. So that's asserting your control and being assertive, but not controlling, letting someone choose.
But if you're showing them the door, you're not letting them choose. You're rejecting them. Isn't that controlling?
You could argue that. However, what we're really controlling, what we're really able to control, is how people treat us, right? And how we treat others. At the end of the day, the only one we really control is ourselves and our decisions and how people interact with us. So if someone's abusive, if someone is being nasty to you, you don't have to tolerate that. And it's not controlling behavior to say, you will not speak to me like that. There's the door. It's controlling behavior to, here's an example. You're making a sandwich and you're married and your spouse walks into the kitchen and you're making yourself a sandwich and they say to you, wow, why aren't you thinking of me? You could make me a sandwich too, you know. That's controlling. That's manipulative. But you're not a good spouse. Why are you thinking of yourself? That's controlling behavior.
Okay, I was just about to sneeze.
It must be true, right? Go ahead. You know, we sneeze on the truth.
How do we break free of this emotional tug of war when we love the people who are trying to control us?
It's very difficult. When people are unwilling to give up this controlling behavior, it sometimes is important to be able to turn away and give yourself a safe distance. Some controlling relationships are quite dangerous. It really is the markings of a dangerous, abusive relationship. People use anger as a form of control. They'll shout at you, they'll scream at you, and be derisive. They'll say condescending things and belittle you. You should never tolerate that. Sometimes that's in the workplace. A boss is paying you a very high salary and thinks that he has the right and audacity to talk down to you and belittle you. And you don't have to tolerate that. Some people tolerate things because financially they don't want to leave a marriage or a job. And you really have to decide what's important in your life. Controlling behavior is very damaging and can make you very ill and very sick and can be very dangerous.
Can you talk about the difference between control and manipulation versus guidance and direction?
Okay. Control and manipulation. versus guidance. And what was the other word?
Oh, guidance and direction. It doesn't matter what the words are, but I think some people who are controlling kind of people would say, well, I'm just giving good advice. I'm just guiding you. I'm giving you good direction. They wouldn't consider it to be controlling.
Well, we really need to talk about specific examples because it's too vague. So let's come up with one. Let's come up with one about religion. Since this is about God, running on love with God. There's a lot of people who decide in their life that they want to become religious, right? And observe, like I did. I moved to Israel and became kosher and started observing Torah. And there's a lot of families in America who are very anti any form of formalized religion or any mention of God. And they see it as a cult and something dangerous. So they'll start speaking derisively about the people that you're surrounding. Let's say you're the one becoming religious, Jewish religious or evangelical religious. I don't know what is considered religious in the Christian circles. And so they start saying things, why are you hanging out with them? You shouldn't be doing. They think it's guidance. This is very dangerous behavior. They're a cult. Those Hasidic people are weird. They dress strangely. You know, I'm picking out my own family, my Jewish family. And so they become meddling, interfering, and say very negative things, thinking they're being a guide. Maybe they're going to influence their family member to refrain from becoming religious. And so it's not guidance at all. It's worse than meddling. People have a right to choose.
Again, the way to tell whether you're being controlling or not is to look at the reaction of the person that you're giving the advice or the guidance to.
I would say that's a good indicator. But also listen to your language. If you're being critical and you're speaking evil about a group, as opposed to pointing out factual information and trying to understand what the person is doing and why they're attracted to that certain group. It's in your speech. Your speech is very important. We've spoken about this, where speech is very powerful and very important. And there are a lot of people online, and I see it all the time. They're posting things on LinkedIn and Facebook, and their language is very severe, very nasty, catty, very catty. And they think they're just being funny. They think it's humor. That's another form of control. It's funny. We're making fun of the black-hatted Hasids. You know what? It's not funny. They think it's funny. So people have lost their compass, really. Over the years, and we've seen this now, it's at a fevered pitch with social media and YouTube. Anything goes. You can say anything you want about anybody. And years ago, it was completely inappropriate.
Okay, and then
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, in politics right now, it seems like there's a lot of the controlling kind of conversations, like you must believe this or else I can't associate with you.
Right. And it's all or nothing. That every Democrat and liberal is an idiot, or every Republican and conservative is a monster and a racist. It's all or nothing. Nobody sees value on both sides. You know, it's not in vogue now. You have to choose your side, your group.
It seems like there are personalities who thrive under guidance and direction, people who don't want accountability. How can you empower them to stand on their own? It's so they don't let themselves be controlled.
Well, it sounds like what you're asking is a parent-child kind of relationship. Am I wrong? Or
But there are people in marriages who just let one person make all the decisions and run everything. And it seems like it works in some relationships.
and they become completely dependent on the other spouse.
Yes.
Well, there's really no way you can avoid that. If it seems to be working and the person who's dependent on the controlling person and no one's complaining, then I suppose for them it's not broken, right? What can I say? If someone wants to be led around like that, but ultimately the cracks in the armor will show up. God forbid the controlling one dies, God forbid. The one who's been controlled and had everything done for them will be helpless. So eventually it will show up. It may not show up in the relationship itself, but eventually it will show up. Someone will have to take over that role. And I'm going to speculate that there are a lot of marriages that are like that, and when one spouse dies, maybe the children have to take over that role because, mom can't take care of herself anymore, or dad doesn't know what to do without mom.
That actually happens a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. A friend of mine, after his father died, the kids had to go over and help the mother anytime her flashlight needed to have the batteries changed.
The cracks in the armor, I would say, right?
Yeah. Because in that situation, the man did everything. It's like, oh, no, don't do that. I'll take care of that. Right. So she didn't have to do anything.
And that might have worked for them, but what I'm talking more about on this program is controlling behavior, where someone's meddling in your life, where you can't even speak at your own dinner table without being spoken to derisively. I've seen marriages like this. I've seen women in marriages for 20, 30 years, and they're sitting at a dinner table and the husband is making them the butt? Is it butt or bud?
No, it's B-U-T-T, the butt.
Butt, like your buttocks. The butt of a joke. And everybody's laughing, but she's not. I've seen this, and I'm horrified. I've literally gotten up and left a dinner table once where this was happening. I couldn't tolerate it. And of course, I didn't feel it was my place to be controlling and make a statement. It's their marriage. It's not for me to meddle, but I couldn't tolerate watching it. I was horrified. So I made an excuse. And maybe this is the way you need to think when you see a bad marriage. They don't think it's bad. This couple's still married to this day. But it's their dynamic and it's accepted. But I didn't think it was funny. So I said, I really have to go. And I'm out of here. But there are marriages that are clearly dysfunctional to my view, but it's not for me to say. If someone I love comes to me and says, I'm having a problem, I'll share with them what I see when they ask me. The only time I would say it's not controlling behavior or meddling is if you see there's a safety issue. God forbid, physical violence or something really dangerous.
Okay. If you're in a situation where people are discussing politics and people get into that controlling kind of discourse, where one person says, no, you must think this, and the other one, oh, you must think that, how do you mediate between the two? Or is that another example where you should just walk away?
I've been in conversations where the voices rise. Right?
Yeah.
And there are people who think the louder they talk, the more points they get. and then if you laugh at them, because I have an attitude, and a lot of people have this attitude, where I don't need to be right. I love a vigorous debate, but I don't need to be right. I love hearing another point of view. But I've been in debates where the other person says something really derisive, really like hits you and says something nasty. I remember talking to someone, and we were talking about some part of Judaism. It happened to be another Jewish person. And he said, well, then you believe like Hezbollah. It was comparing me to a terrorist organization. And we're just having a fun little debate about some form of Jewish law. And I said, well, my response was, well, then I'm like Hezbollah. Can we change the subject? Like, this is ridiculous. You're calling me a terrorist because I don't agree with you? And so there are times where you have to just shrug it off and say, thanks, let's change the subject. And walk away. Like you said, you can't win those arguments. We're not here to win arguments. We're here to maybe have a conversation. And if it becomes derisive and not fun any longer, it's time to end the conversation.
Okay, so if you're in the middle of it, where there's two opposite sides, you can just say, hey, let's switch to the conversation and just move off.
Yeah, well, what's the point? You're not going to convince them. They're not going to convince you. And you might say, let's agree to disagree. Let's pick something else to talk about. But if it's something personal, if it's not just a discussion, right? And it's something where someone's coming to you with a complaint about a family member, you have to pull back and be balanced about it and work on thinking through, am I meddling? Am I being helpful? What's really going on here? And I say this every week, we need to start thinking before we say something, during, and then we need to reflect. Did I say something wrong? Do I need to apologize? And I know that's a lot of thinking, but right now, when I look around the world, a lot of people aren't thinking at all.
Right. I'm going to bring the conversation up a level, and I'm going to give you another one of your questions from your intro, and that is, if freedom is our birthright from God himself, why do we often feel powerless as though we live in servitude to others?
Because we choose it. We choose it. We either choose to be slaves or we choose to enslave. And it really comes from our need to control, our ego. We feel separate. If I don't control this situation, there'll be less for me. And that's really where it comes down to.
Okay, but if you feel powerless, if you feel like you're in servitude, are you really choosing it?
We choose everything, Anna Marie. Yes. We choose everything. We choose our relationships. We choose how we're treated. We choose our spouses. We choose everything. So if your relationships are painful, if you feel like you're being abused at the workplace and unappreciated, you need to reflect and see, am I a slave to this job? Am I doing this job and going to this place of work because they have me? They own me because they're paying me a salary. Excuse me. Money shouldn't be our barometer. And we shouldn't stay in dysfunctional, bad marriages or relationships when we're being controlled and abused. It's not okay. Do you have a final question?
No, that was it. We're out of time.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this was meaningful. Life can be beautiful, and you can gain control of your life and choose your relationships more carefully, and you don't need to be controlled. But most of all, check yourself. Think before you speak, think while you're speaking, and then reflect back. Did I go too far? Am I being controlling of this person? Am I giving them the free license to choose for themselves? I hope this was meaningful. Go to my website, lauriemichelle.net. There's more programs. There'll be more. And let's listen, learn, and work for peace. This is the work of world peace, because if we learn how to get it right, we'll choose better, And there will be peace in our time, he promises. God bless you. Peace on earth in our time.